Welcome back to Software Engineering and HCI. In this module 9, we are going to cover Introduction to HCI. So, these are the learning outcomes. Number 1, to appreciate the significance of usability. Usability is important because the interface of the software will determine whether the software is useful or not to the user, especially for social technical systems whereby the software is designed to assist human activities. The interaction, which involves capturing input from the user, capturing controls from the user, and then to generate the desired output, are very important elements of the software. Number 2, to explain the importance of good user interface design. Number 3, to explain various types of user interface. It is a misconception to think that user interface has to be graphical. No, it doesn't have to be graphical. There are various other modes of interaction with software system. And finally, to explain the role of HCI in software engineering, in software development. What is the significance of HCI? How do we make use of HCI to facilitate a good software development? So these are the 4 learning outcomes that we will try to achieve in this lecture. Introduction. Interactivity is an important part of many products. Look at your smartphone. Isn't the interface important? An important criteria when you choose to buy a model of a new smartphone? How about computer? Web pages. Web pages that offer the same content. What could be the differentiator? The interface, of course. Other products such as watch, the control buttons on the printer, photocopier, the remote control that you have in your living room, the ATM machine, the microwave oven that you have probably used to heat up your breakfast, calculator, of course the internet, spreadsheet, word editor, the list goes on. What is human-computer interaction really? Or CHI, computer-human interaction. It is a discipline in the field of IT that is concerned with the design. Yeah, the keyword is design. And then evaluation and implementation of interactive computing systems for human use, and with the study of major phenomena surrounding them, according to ACM. Now, please look at the keyword interactive computing systems. Not all computer systems are designed to interact with humans. Most are. Yeah, most are. There are some software systems that you will never see. They are working at the lower layers of a computer system, layers between components. Those kind of systems, you do not interact with them. But majority of the software systems you come across that you have used before, of course, does have the interface with human. What for? Number 1, to capture input from the user. Number 2, to capture controls from the user. What do you want the software to do? Controls. And number 3, to display the output. These systems are interactive because they will be waiting for the input and immediately display the output. Yeah, Some of them may display the output sometime afterwards, maybe a program that scans and prints out the copies. Then you won't get immediate output, yeah, but most are. These are interactive software systems. Now, HCI studies in software engineering is concerned with the ways how humans interact with these kind of systems, with these interactive systems. The tasks that are involved in such interaction, especially in business, managerial, organizational, and cultural contexts. Look at the diagram there. Yeah, you see, in a smartphone, a smart app will have multiple interfaces that are linked. Depending on the button that you click, you get different interface, right? This is interactive. Interface mediates between user and the task. Why do you use a computer system to do your assignment? The output is an assignment printout or maybe a digital copy of the assignment that you can submit to your instructor, to your lecturer, right? So the computer is a tool that you use to get the ultimate outcome, which is the assignment. For you to be able to do the task effectively, you need a good user interface. HCI or CHI, either way, yeah, human-computer, computer-human interaction, is interested in designing this interaction between human and computers. Now, interaction is not just graphical. It also includes the keyboard presses, the mouse clicks, the touch screen. Yeah. HCI is interdisciplinary. That means you not only you need to know computer science, but you also need to know about the psychology of how humans interact with machine, management, information systems, information science, how we process information, how much information can we overload ourselves, how much our retention. Maybe you would notice some of this well-designed software will capture your attention better than other software because of the user interface. Yeah, these are all human factors. So you need to know about human factors in HCI, not just about the software, but the human factors as well. Remember, in HCI, we are not just talking about designing a beautiful interface, but we are also talking about the interaction for the user experience, UX. Yeah, we're not just talking about user interface, UI. We are also talking about the user experience, UX, that come from good user interface design, that come from good interaction design. You can only achieve good user experience through good user interface design and user interaction design. So if you look at the chart on the right, this is where HCI is in relation to other disciplines of study. HCI falls under human factors engineering, yeah, which involve the knowledge of engineering and psychology. Yeah. Under human factors engineering, we have industrial design, we have product design. Yeah. HCI is one of the components. What do we have under HCI? These are important. What do we have under HCI? User interface design, user experience design, and interaction design. Yeah. So good user interface, good interaction will give the user good user experience. What is the goal of human-computer interactivity? The goal of HCI is to create an interface that is more than just being useful. What does that mean? More than being useful? What is that? Being usable. So useful and usable are two related terms, but they are different. What is useful? What is usable? Useful allows the user to achieve some task, but it is not about being easy. Yeah, you can do the task. It's useful, even though it's difficult. Usable, yeah. Pardon the spelling error. Usable, the focus is on getting the task done easily. So now you go. Useful versus usable. Useful means it can do certain tasks. Usable means it can be done easily. To ensure that the system functionality can be utilized by user, you must ensure usability, not just usefulness. Yeah, usability. Why? Usability provides effective user interaction support and enhances a pleasant user experience, UX. Yeah, good UI, good user interface, good user interaction gives you good user experience. I repeat, good user interaction, good user interface gives good user experience. Now, look at this diagram. I'm sure you know what a computer mouse is, but have you seen the first computer mouse? It is a prototype. It is useful, of course, but is it usable? Usable means that it gives good user experience, right? Because you can do the task easily. Useful, of course. Yeah. Now, before there is mouse, people have experimented with other kinds of gadget. For example, light pen, whereby you move the mouse cursor by touching the screen. A little bit like touch screen, right? But in those days, we don't have touch screen that is controlled by just using our finger. Those days, we need a light pen. This idea doesn't take off. It's useful, but it does not take off because over the time your hand will become tired. So instead, mouse become more popular. It's more usable. Yeah, because it's more usable. Both are useful. Both light pen and mouse are useful, but mouse eventually becomes more popular because not only is useful, it is also usable. Yeah. This is another kind of mouse design. Yeah, it's usable, but probably because it's bulky, so it doesn't become a mainstream design for mouse. It's a roller ball. Yeah, so you can actually move the surface of the ball in order to move the cursor. In a regular mouse design, the ball is underneath. But I doubt your mouse has a mechanical ball. Instead, your mouse is probably using infrared lights. Yeah. Either it is the visible one or invisible one. But the older days, we have roller balls inside the mouse. And this roller ball can be underneath the mouse or on top of the mouse. The more popular one, of course, is underneath the mouse, and now it has been replaced by infrared. So why software needs to be useful and usable? The main goal is to achieve organizational and individual effectiveness as well as efficiency. We want the task to be effective and also efficient, fast, easy, consume less resource. So what are the elements of H3I? The elements of H3I, of course, comes from this acronym, right? Human Computer Interaction. There you go. Human Computer Interaction. These are the three elements. The three elements of HCI are human computer interaction. Humans refer to individuals who are using the software system, as well as the group of users working together. Like in the case of virtual conferencing, it's not just the presenter, but also the audience, right? So it's a group of users, each with a different role, not necessarily the same. And of course, computer. Yeah. Apart from computer, there can be other devices, instruments, not non-computing nature. but in our case, we are looking specifically at computer. And then how human and computer interact. So this requires understanding of human factors, understanding of interactivity designs, yeah, so that human and computer can work together effectively and efficiently to deliver a task. So, what are the factors of a good HCI? Technology. Basic technology, input-output, interaction styles, yeah. And then what kind of computing are we doing? Is it math-based, engineering-based, business-based? There are also advanced technology for HCI, virtual reality, for example, augmented reality. These are advanced technology for HCI, whereby the users become immersed in the software. Instead of we use the software is in front of us, we interact through our keyboard, mouse, or touch screen. But in virtual or augmented reality, is an ultimate HCI. The user is inside. The user feels himself or herself inside the software. Yeah. And then HCI also requires understanding of human factors like demographics, gender, age, educational background, ergonomics. Some people can, for example, some people, unfortunately, they have handicaps, yeah, so they are not able to use the computer like everybody else. So we need to consider this as a factor. Cognition level, how much attention can a user give to a computer? So a good interface design will keep the user's attention for a very long time. User doesn't get frustrated. Yeah, they feel captivated, attached to using the software. Emotion level, does the software actually trigger some emotion, anger, happiness, does the user feel satisfied or frustrated? Yeah. And then of course, what the software is designed, what task the software is designed for. Okay, all this also involve the environment, the context of the environment. Maybe the currency, maybe the language, yeah, maybe some sensitivities of a culture or a religion. All these are under context. All these are part of HCI. So, what is the importance of learning HCI? Yeah? Fast development and deployment of technology. Nowadays, yeah, everything we need to do it fast because it's a very competitive environment. Software is being used in business, and the reason why we use software is for competitiveness. I think it's quite obvious now. During this pandemic, a lot of manual tasks are being automated to keep the business going. Yeah, and this has to be done fast. This has, from the idea, from the requirements, it has to be analyzed, designed, and converted into software fast. Yeah, this makes HCI factors even more critical and fundamental, because at the end of the day, we are building software not just for machines, yeah, but also for humans. So good HCI is important. Now, why HCI is important for software development? You can have very good algorithm, but if the end user cannot use the software, what good are those algorithms? Yeah. So as programmer, as analysts, we need to know about HCI. And in software engineering, We often use agile approach, right? And in agile approach, we tend to use iteration. We develop, get feedback, improve the design, then get feedback some more, right? So it requires feedback from the user. And how do you analyze this feedback from the user? From HCI points of views. Yeah. Complex system requires even deeper understanding of the informational and decision-making needs. This is where activity diagram, for example, is important to help us understand what are the required inputs and the type of decision that human makes or the machine assists human in making those decisions. Yeah. So the use of computer is part of white-collar jobs, white-collar professions. So in understanding the interaction, yeah, so that the machine can augment, can improve human decision making is important. This requires good interface design. It requires good understanding of the business so that best practices in business can be replicated inside the software, and the software should augment, should improve the task. Poor interface design, no way you can maximize this potential. So what is the interface? Now, please remember, interface is not just about graphical user interface. It's not just about the buttons, things that you can see with your eyes. Yeah, interface is more than that. It covers interaction. It covers user experience. But what is interface really? Interface is the boundary between two or more components. In this case, we have user. User is one component, right? And then software is another component. So how do we actually allow the input to be captured from the user and output to be displayed back to the user, for the output to be consumed by the user? User interface component. Imagine if your software that you're using now doesn't have UI component, then you won't have the screen in front of you. You won't have keyboard or mouse. There's no need for those anymore because there's no need for input, there's no need for output, right? So the UI component is important. Following me? Now, interface is not just between user and the machine. It's not just between user and the machine, but there are also interfaces between components inside the software. Remember when you learn functions, function call, function definition in the programming classes? Or you have taken object-oriented programming, whereby you design the classes, and from the classes you instantiate the objects, and these objects interact with one another by calling the methods. So all these are interface. Actually, the functions and the methods are interface, but these functions and methods, right, are mainly for interaction between the components. Of course, when you write program, print line, console, write line, all these functions or methods display output on the screen, right? Those are user interface components. But other than that, the other functions are mainly between components. All right, following? So you can see that between human and subsystem with another subsystem, and system bit of business logic with the database management system. Yeah, so all these are interactions. All these are interfaces. Interfaces allow interaction. Okay, let's look at one analogy. How do you communicate with another human? With mouth, with your ear, with your eyes, right? So your mouth, your ear, eyes, these are interfaces. With these interfaces, you're able to talk, you're able to listen, you're able to see. Therefore, there is interaction. If between two humans, there will be interactions. And the interface will be mouth, ear, eyes. Mouth, ear, eyes, we only trigger interaction if it's between you and another person. Of course, you can talk to yourself, yeah? That is also interaction, yeah? Systems does that as well. It's called loop back. So this chart, this hierarchical chart shows you the different types of interfaces. Yeah. So do not limit yourself to interfaces that are graphical. Yeah. Interface can be used for user or between software systems, between subsystems. That's number one. That number one thing that you should know about interface. Yeah. Not necessarily with user, but can be between components as well. And then number two, let's look at user now, yeah, because we are talking about human-computer interaction. So human-computer interaction is about interaction between user and software, not the other one, yeah. System interface is between component with component. In system architecture, we're focusing mostly on that. But we are talking about HCI in this module. So don't limit yourself to graphical, yeah. It can be also command line. That means you pass instructions by typing out the commands. Command line interface, like when you use DOS, you know, in the terminal environment of Unix or Linux, when you type the commands such as dir, ls, who am I, delete, copy, all these are commands, right, that you copy, that you type into the environment, yeah. And then the other one is natural language interface, such as Siri, Google Talk, yeah. You can actually pass commands to your smartphone. You just need to invoke those program that uses NLI, natural language interface. Graphical user, natural language. So it listens to human speeches. Most of the NLI in the markets are in English, followed by, I think the Chinese is also quite common nowadays, and you can try with Malays as well. I believe the NLI has achieved multilingual capability. If you have used Waze, actually a part of typing in the location where you want to go, yeah, to the graphical user interface, you can actually tell Waze, yeah, the Waze smart app, you know, that allows you to navigate from one point to another point. I'm not sure whether you have used Waze before, WAZE. You can actually talk to the application, and then the application respond after receiving your destination. So user interface is the front-end application view, yeah. Front-end application view, serving as an interface between human and software system. User interface. Command line interface. Let me show you one example. This is command line interface. Yeah. Okay. So as you can see, command line interface has one limitation. You have to remember the commands. Yeah. But if that's the case, what is the advantage of command line interface? There are advantages. There are many things that you can do with command line interfaces, but you cannot do with graphical user interfaces. A part of that, command line interface is more resource intensive. Sorry, it's more resource saving, not resource intensive. It's more resource saving because you don't have to dedicate a lot of computing memory just to carry out a task. But of course, the user will have the challenge of remembering the commands to carry out a task. Whereas if you use graphical user interface, you only need to know what to click on, which is something more natural for most users. But graphical user interfaces have limitations in terms of things that you can do, because you can only do if the button is available. You can do more with CI actually. Yeah, that's for CI. GUI, no need to explain. I think you're very familiar with it. NLI, you can try your hands on Siri, you know, Google Talk, Waze. I think for Samsung, they also have an offering called Bibix, I think. You can try that with a smartphone. Yeah. Now, this is what I would like to point out. Yeah. This is a software system, and there are many software components. Yeah, that does different functions inside a software. Now, Typically, a user will interact with the software through user interface. There may be a user interface for end user. There may be user interface for the technician, administrators. Yeah. So the interface for the technician administrators will of course be different from the one for end user. And there can also be more than one interface for the administrators, right? So there are actually many ways that you are not many ways to access and manipulate the system that as end user you may not be aware of, but the support people, the technical people, you know, the technicians, they are the ones who have the access to the system through other doors, yeah, through other doors. So it's not just the main door, but there are also many other uh, doors for the services. So as you can see, this is for an operating system. Operating system is using layer architecture. So on top of the layer is mainly for interaction. We have a graphical user interface. We have command line interface. Yeah, as I've shown you just now. This is a graphical user interface. And this is command line interface. As you can see, graphical user interface, graphical, you just click, right click, you know, it will be context menu. Yeah. Whereas command line, you have to remember the commands, yeah, to navigate around the file systems. So this slide is talking about the advantages of GUI, yeah, versus command line. Faster, you know, you can do a lot of things easily, more usable. Yeah, more usable when you have GUI. Two major types of GUI: menu driven. Yeah, in your Microsoft Word, right? You have a lot of menu items on the top. And then there's also form-based interface. For example, when you register a new email account on the browser, those are form-based interface. One very useful tool to design interface is at appdiagrams.net. Of course, if you want to design a user interface, you don't necessarily need this tool. You can hand draw or can use a PowerPoint or any editors that you have. Yeah, that's not necessarily need to use this tool. Yeah, the skeleton or sketch of the user interface is called wireframe. It may look as simple as this, or it may be more realistic looking like this. This you can achieve if we use tools. Yeah, there are a lot of tools built in for IDE nowadays that you can use. Yeah. So what's the application of HCI? For technologies such as virtual reality, augmented reality, you need to study how people can interact better with machine. You have you also use HCI to improve interaction between humans, improve interaction between humans and businesses. Yeah, this requires new ideas. For example, nowadays, if you want to buy food online easily, you don't have to physically be there, right? You can just order. So these are new ideas that you can make happen because you understand HCI. And of course, you can see HCI in different domains, from military to healthcare to gaming, you know. So it's a very wide application. There's a very wide application of HCI. So what is the role of HCI in usability? I'm not talking about usefulness. Yeah, useful and usable are two different terms, as I have explained earlier. The role of HCI is making systems easy to learn and use. Yeah, making systems easy to learn and use. A usable system is therefore one, easy to learn, easy to remember how to use it, effective to use, efficient to use, safe to use, and finally enjoyable to use. Especially gaming system. Yeah, a gaming system is not only usable, not only useful, but I mean, yes, it's very usable because it's enjoyable. Now, if the engineer, the software engineer, does not pay attention to HCI, Therefore, the system will become very poor in usability. The user feel very frustrated, and they will just stop using the system. So therefore, I pointed out the importance of HCI in software development. Yeah, in software development, HCI is important. Why? Because you can come up with a prototype to understand what kind of data, what kind of input you want to capture, what kind of output should the system display. When you know what the input outputs are, then only you work out the logic to process the input into output. Remember, what is the purpose of computing? Is to process input to output, right? So therefore, you need to understand what are the inputs, what is the desired output, and how to get the output from those inputs. So to understand that, that's when you learn about software engineering, the process of capturing the requirements, how the information is being processed until you get the output. So you use different set of UML diagrams to capture abstract business ideas, the activities. Then slowly you come up with a solution. This is the analysis of the requirement. This is for the proposed solution. And then the proposed solution will be referred to by the developer, the programmer, the database database implementer to come up with a code or script. All right. So this is where HCI comes in. HCI, you come up with a prototype to capture, to understand the requirement, the input-output requirements, and the type of processes needed to get the output from the input. So I hope you see the significance of HCI in software development. Summary. HCI is interested in designing interactions between human and computers. HCI provide the interface between human and computers. It is a shared boundary. It is a boundary and is shared by human and user and computer. Human user give the input, get the output, give the instruction through controls. Interface, receive input, produce output, receive the controls and implement them. User interface provides access and control to system. There can be multiple access through user interface. Yeah. And you have learned that there are a few types of user interface, not necessarily GUI, but it can also be CLI. Yeah, and nowadays NLI, natural language interface, is becoming more popular. Why do we need to learn HCI for software engineering? Because HCI contributes to usability. We're not talking about usefulness. Of course, usefulness is there, but it has to be usable as well for non-functional requirements in SE. Remember in SE, USMAP, usability, security, maintainability, availability, performance. Usability is one of the software engineering non-functional requirements. That is where HCI comes in. That's how HCI contributes to software engineering.